Okay, so this may have been somewhat more true earlier on in the year, but we have ourselves what is finally a turning point in the 2022-2023 season for the Vancouver Canucks, and it comes to us via Thomas Drance on The Athletic. Take a look at this tweet made right here. Today, for the first time all year, the Canucks' odds of landing the first overall pick in 2023 have climbed above their odds of making the playoffs, per Dom Lucian's projections. And attached are the two graphs. You don't need me to show you those, but pretty much the Vancouver Canucks are now in a worse spot this season, so much to the point that they're more likely to getting the first overall pick than grabbing themselves a playoff spot. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not all too surprised. The way the Vancouver Canucks have played the past little while has been so poor that you get games like yesterday, Vancouver versus Pittsburgh, where the Canucks blew a multi-goal lead. They were so bad in their own zone. They gave up so many high-danger scoring chances, and this loss goes out there and sets the Vancouver Canucks a record right here. It's no wonder their odds of getting the first overall pick are higher. In fact, when you talk about records, with yesterday's blown goal lead, Vancouver now holds the record for most multi-goal blown leads through 40 games in any NHL season's history. Vancouver in 22-23 has had 8 multi-goal leads through the first 40 games of the year, which supersedes the Rangers of 2018-19, the Devils of 85, the New York Islanders of 05-06, and every other team worse than that. Vancouver has been worse than all of them. What I also wanted to do in this video was go over Jim Rutherford and the comments that he made when speaking to... where was the source over here? Okay, here it is. TribLive.com, which is a Pennsylvania journalistic platform. Jim Rutherford had himself an interview, and it talks about how he wishes his Penguins tenure ended different. That's not what I wanted to talk about, though, from this article. Instead, what I wanted to focus on was the Vancouver side of things, because, of course, if you're talking to Jim Rutherford, president of hockey ops with the Vancouver Canucks, you're probably going to ask him about his current job, and that is what Seth Rorabo goes out there and does. So, let's read some of the comments that Rutherford has in regards to the Canucks, their direction, and what has been challenging for him so far. In Vancouver, we have a CFL football team, but we don't have an NFL or Major League Baseball team like you do in Pittsburgh. And a big thing here, and I totally understand it, is the frustration of having a franchise for as long as they have, getting to the Stanley Cup Finals a few times, but not winning the cup. And then, of course, even worse than that is the number of years without being a playoff team. There's a lot of frustration, and I understand it. We have a wonderful fan base. They understand the game. I like being in a Canadian market. I was born and raised in Canada. Quite frankly, I like being in this market. Okay, Jim, you didn't need to rub salt in the wound there, but yes, the Vancouver Canucks have fewer sports teams in the pro leagues than the Pittsburgh area does. I knew it was going to be a challenge, Rutherford said. We had some work to do to improve the team. It's probably been a little bigger of a challenge than I expected in trying to unravel the cap situation here. The sooner we can do that, the sooner we can move forward and improve the team. So there you go, Rutherford is acknowledging that moving out money has been more difficult than he thought it was going to be. Freeing up contracts, actually opening up cap space. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that as this video goes on, but right now, Rutherford at face value is saying that it has been a little bit more difficult. We have good players here. We certainly show signs of that at different times with this group. We haven't totally come together as a team, which would give us a chance at being more consistent. We're working and looking at what we can do better. He then talks about Patrick Allvin. I have a lot of respect for Patrick. He's really good at what he does. The roles are different with me being president and him being the GM. I don't do the phone calls to other GMs and things like that. He does the day-to-day stuff that I would do in the past, and that's a little bit of an adjustment for me, and it's an adjustment for him too. Overall, though, our working relationship is real good. We've built a very strong hockey ops department here, and we just have to work hard. We'll never get as good as we should be as soon as everybody wants, but I think the opportunity is going to be there at some point in time that we can put a pretty good team together here. The rest of the article talks about the Pittsburgh Penguins. It goes over his opinions on the Penguins and how the Penguins are the Penguins and they do the Penguin things and everything, but it even says here that Rutherford acknowledges his career probably should have finished in Pittsburgh. What in the world? How are you going to do? Okay, I'm not going to expand on that even more. Let's talk about another thing that popped up earlier today, actually, on the TSN broadcast regarding the Vancouver Canucks and Andrei Kuzmenko. Because when it comes to this conversation we're having about the best Russian Canuck we've had in a long time, there is a bigger conversation opening up as to what the Canucks would, could, or should do. We already discussed the idea of him being traded to the Washington Capitals because if you add on Kuzmenko to a team that already has Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Orlov, it kind of adds for a nice dynamic there of Russian players in Washington. But aside from the Washington conversations, there was a segment done on TSN regarding the Canucks and Kuzmenko and where this appears to be going. This is the hit that I wanted to show you here. The Canucks are going to try to re-sign Andrei Kuzmenko amid the trade interest. And attached is a video from tsn.ca. The same link goes out there and describes more of the situation from Pierre LeBrun. There haven't been any contract negotiations, although the expectation is that should happen within the month here. But what's interesting, of course, is that teams are calling. Why wouldn't they be? He's got a cheap cap hit. Teams that are going for it, that are a contender, that have almost no cap room, he would fit the bill both in terms of what he can do offensively and the fact that he doesn't take up a lot of room on the cap. But for Vancouver, the Canucks aren't even sure they want to move him. They want to try to see if they can sign him. I think the price starts at least $6 million per year on the bridge deal for Kuzmenko to stay in Vancouver, where, by all accounts, he is quite happy. Now, the top comment on the Canucks subreddit goes over a perspective that I thought was really noteworthy in regards to this Canucks are going to try to re-sign Kuzmenko thing. It's on the same post made for this link that I'm going to be having in the description of the TSN segment. Bog73 says this: if we sign Andrei Kuzmenko before we ship out other contracts, the Canucks will be hamstringing themselves in any future trade negotiations, as every team in the league will be able to use our cap situation against us. We'd most likely have to add sweeteners to any deal we try to swing, move people out, and then work on signing Kuzmenko. Also, if you take Smeal's comments from the STH forum into consideration, how the hell can we sign Bo and Kuzmenko? Nothing from this management group makes sense. Knucklehead 200 says this should be the top comment in the thread. Teams will leverage our cap crunch against us, and they probably already do, if the Canucks sign Kuzmenko first. And yeah, that's exactly what the Chicago Blackhawks did in the Riley Stillman-Jason Dickinson trade. The Canucks had to give up extra capital to trade Dickinson away, and now that guy's actually doing pretty okay for a Chicago team that is one of the worst we have seen in the NHL in a while. And so, when you talk about the direction of this team, you talk about how poorly they've been performing, you talk about re-signing guys, moving money out, etc., etc. Sure, I can totally understand and I can take to heart the perspective that says that moving money out has been a lot more difficult than you would have anticipated it to be. It's really easy to say, okay, well, just trade away Myers, trade away OEL, and you're good. Like, open up that money, just trade those guys away. It's easy to say that, but it's so difficult to actually put it into practice because, one, nobody's making trades. Like, you're not seeing too much money get moved around nowadays anyway. And secondly, everybody knows how bad they are. Everybody knows that these are not contracts the Vancouver Canucks want on their roster. They're trying to ship them away because they're so undesirable and so negatively impactful to the team and its contract structure. So when it comes to teams looking for whatever trade ideas that are out there, I mean, if Vancouver comes calling and says, hey, we got Myers and OEL, you want to take these guys on? They're going to say no. They're going to be like, okay, well, if you want us to take them on, give us a first too. Give us a second too. Give us all this other crap on top of your contracts that you don't want. So we even think about saying yes because we know you're in a position where you're forced to move them out. Rutherford is saying that it's difficult to do that, and now they're in a position where they want to re-sign Kuzmenko too, which I kind of think is the right move in a way. Like, if you could get him to a pretty cheap deal, stick him on PD's wing for the rest of PD's bridge deal, that's a pretty alright move in my opinion. It's just, you gotta find the money to do that, and the Canucks have not done anything so far in this offseason nor in the regular season to really do that properly. You're signing Miller to huge contract amounts. You're signing Mikheyev. You're committing so much money to assets that weren't already there that you're making your job a little bit harder. Now, sure, Mikheyev has been okay this season. I like Mikheyev. You have Miller, on the other hand, who is still producing points, but everybody's talking about trading this guy now too. Where is the consistency? That's my question. So talk to the comments your thoughts about the Canucks and the things that we had went over here. The fact that they are now closer to Connor Bedard than they are to the playoffs. How their president of hockey operations talked about how it's difficult to move money and how they now want to re-sign Andrei Kuzmenko too before moving any money out. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99 and bye.